That's all that I command you to do, all that I've commanded you to do, okay? So you want to start doing God's will? Start honoring your father and mother. And God will use you to accomplish His mission. Don't steal. That's God's command. Okay, and you'll start fulfilling God's mission. Don't lie. You'll start fulfilling God's mission. Don't commit adultery. You will be fulfilling God's mission. Listen. Sometimes we think, oh, God's will is just so complicated, it's so hard, I don't know what to do. Look, start with what you know to do. He says, do what I commanded you to do. God says, love one another. You can do that. God says, forgive one another. You can do that. God says, serve one another. God says, pray for one another. These are things that you can do. And it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how long you've been a Christian. It doesn't matter whether you've got a great family history or not. These are all things that you can do. And I'm going to tell you this, if you start doing those things, if you start doing those, if you refuse to lie to your parents, you're going to be unique. You're going to be different. Because the fact of the matter is this, most of your friends lie to their parents. You know it, right? And if you were honest, some of you would probably say, well, yeah, I've lied to my parents probably even this week. Some of you, and this is another, been a growing trend, cheat. You cheat. Cheat on tests. You cheat on doing your papers. Research. Plagiarism has been on the rise. You cheat. Well, listen. So does most everybody else. And so that doesn't make you unique because you cheat. What would make you unique and different is if you didn't cheat. What would make you a person who's fulfilling God's command and who's living out God's mission because God has authority in your life and you respect the authority that God has placed in your life, your parents and your teachers, because you respect that authority, God will use you to accomplish His mission because you have chosen to be different. But you see, who's going to have authority in your life? You? You want to have your own authority in your life? You want to make your own rules? And it's like we all struggle with that. But at some point, you've got to realize that you don't know what's best for you. Only God does. See, whether you like it or not, somebody's always going to be telling you what to do. I would rather listen to somebody who knows everything than somebody who doesn't know anything. And you see, God knows everything. God knows everything. And so it would be in your best interest to listen to Him because He knows everything. Don't listen to your friends. They don't know anything. They don't have a clue. And some of your parents, you think, oh, my parents don't have a clue. Wait till you get to be 25. You realize your parents knew a whole lot. And you see, the thing is this, is that your parents know more than your friends do, and yet you listen to your friends. But you won't listen to your parents. Your teachers know more than you do, and you think your teachers are stupid. And then you think, God, how can God tell me what to do? All God wants to tell me is what not to do. God doesn't love me. God doesn't care. Is that true? Listen, God knows everything. And if He knows everything, it would be best to listen to Him because He's not going to tell you anything that's going to hurt you. He's telling you everything to protect you. Who's going to be the authority in your life? You see, whoever has the authority in your life, that's the person you're going to obey. Whoever has authority in your life, that's the person you're going to obey. So let me ask you this. Who do you listen to? Who do you listen to? Do you do what God wants you to do? Or do you do what your friends want you to do? Do you do what your nature wants to do? Do you follow that? You see, whoever has the authority in your life, that's what you're going to obey. Jesus has proven that He has all authority over death, hell, and sin. The question is, does He have authority over you? Does He have authority over you? This weekend, even though we're talking about missions, this is not just about going to a foreign land. This is about living for Jesus every day. But you see, if you live for Jesus every day, God will use you. And don't tell me He can't use you at your age. I get to see stories and I get to hear about kids your age who do incredible things for God. But I'm going to tell you this, it ain't easy to do incredible things for God. There are kids out there who are willing to put their lives on the line. They're willing to be uncool because they want to serve God. But even if we were to put it in the context of another country, there are kids your age right now who are being exiled from their families because they've taken a stand for Jesus. there are kids your age who've been burned. I've seen pictures of kids who, because they wouldn't deny Jesus, these guys would take logs off of a fire and they would hold them. And then when the kid wouldn't deny Jesus, they would singe them. And I've seen pictures of these kids who have just these terrible and horrible scars all over their sides and all over their body because they wouldn't deny Jesus. Because Jesus was their authority, not some man with a gun. But we don't have people with guns to our faces. We don't have people holding hot logs to our sides. We don't have that. We just have friends and people who think we're not cool. So I have to ask you, who has the authority in your life? If you say you love Jesus, do you obey Jesus? Jesus said, if you love me, you will keep my commands. If you love me, you'll obey me. That's what Jesus said. The word authority, and we're almost done. The word authority has this really, I like words. I like, language. That's why I have an English degree. But it has the word author in it. You see, Jesus wants to write your story. He's not just writing some grand story, even though he is writing a grand story. He wants to write your story, and he's writing your story into his story. And if you didn't know, his story, if you put it together, spells history. And you see, the thing is this, is that God wants you to make history. You can make history by making his story your story. Let Jesus write your story. And if he writes your story, I promise you, you will love every word of it. People will be sitting on the edge of their seats because your story will blow people away when you give your life to Jesus. When you choose to follow him and go wherever he leads you and do whatever he wants you to do, your story will be incredible. But you got to choose. Who's going to have the authority in your life? This verse, Hebrews 12:2, it says this: let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the what? The author. And if you wanted to, you could put the authority and the perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and has sat down at the right hand of the Father. Listen, Jesus is the one who wants to write your story. This weekend, we're going to ask you to submit yourself to God. We're going to ask you to surrender yourself to God and say, God, wherever you want me to go, whatever you want me to do, I am willing to do it. But you're going to have to wrestle that out. It's going to cost you to follow Jesus. It's going to be difficult. But it's going to be glorious. And so, as we finish up, the word go is a command. You're all familiar with Matthew 28 where it says, go therefore. Get going. Get out there and do it. Let Jesus use you. That word is a command. It's not a suggestion. He's not just saying, if you feel like it. If the notion hits you, if you get around to it, go and live for Jesus. That's not what he's saying. He's saying this: if you call yourself a Christian, this is your command. This is your mission. If you choose to accept it, this is your mission. Go. Go. Go and tell the world about Jesus. Go and live in such a way. Because God is a going God. God is working all around us. He's working. He's working in places like the Philippines, and you're going to hear about, some of these other mission projects tomorrow. God is working in those places. God's working in China. God's working here in Pigeon Forge. Because God is going and he's doing something. He's asking you to tag along. He's asking you to say, hey, come on, go on this ride. This mission is possible. So, I want to show you this video. I think this video's next. When I was in Thailand, I went to China back in 2006. And I got to do something really cool. Actually, I got to do a lot of things that were really cool. But while I was there, we were going through this mission training with OMF, which is Overseas Mission Fellowship, started by Hudson Taylor. And they were going through this training with us, and they were talking about how we were going to smuggle Bibles into Vietnam. And so they were like, we've got these Bibles, you got to hide them in your bags and stuff, and if you get caught, we're like, what? And they're like, yeah, if you get caught, don't tell them anything, don't, and they went through all this stuff on how to respond if we were captured because it's illegal to smuggle Bibles into Vietnam. And so they were like going through all this kind of stuff. And then they played us this song. And I had heard this song before, and you probably heard it too. It's called He Reigns by the Newsboys. And it was like, when I sat there in Thailand listening to this song, thinking about, here I am, I'm about to smuggle Bibles into Vietnam, a country that's closed and communist and doesn't really, worship God, and then I'm going to go hike through China and walk through these rice fields and meet the black Hmong people who don't know about Jesus and they don't know God, and then I'm going to go, into Hong Kong and all this kind of stuff, and I'm thinking, but God, He reigns here. And even though they don't know Him, and even though they can't see Him, God is still here. God is still working, and even though it's kind of underground, and I got to worship with the underground church in China. There was, a group of people that were meeting, and it's illegal to do that, but they meet in these hidden places, and they had these stakeouts, these people that were kind of watching to see if others were coming to take them away. And so they were marching us kind of secretly behind these alleys and whatever, and leading us to this secret place to gather. And as we sat in this room where there were rats that were crawling all around, they handed out these sheets of music and we began to sing and praise and worship God together. And I thought, you know what? This is awesome. God reigns here too. And so I want to show you this video because I want you to understand that God doesn't just want to reign in China or, in Africa or whatever. God wants to reign in your heart. He wants to rule in your life. And so as you watch this video, ask God to be speaking to you this weekend, all right? He reigns. While you're on your way, sorry, I forgot this. You got to understand that everybody's going somewhere. Because everyone has a soul. That's why we need to go.